Okay, I'm back, guys. I don't know what happened. A phone call came in and I got booted off. I could hear you and I can see you just fine. But for some reason, it knocked me out. Couldn't see or hear me at all. So I'll wait for a couple of seconds. No phone calls, please. Not right now. So everybody should be coming back on pretty soon. Yeah, come on back in, guys. Hi, LA. Thank you so much for coming back. I don't know what happened. A phone call came in and I clicked it off, and then it just knocked me completely off. Hi, Leonard. Thank you so much for coming back. Again, I don't know what happened, and I couldn't figure out how to get me back on. But hopefully, Lily will be back on here in just a couple of seconds, and I'll add her on. And anybody else who wants to join the discussion, you're welcome to. If you have any questions or comments, hey, Lily, go ahead and hit the link. Oh, I need to hit the link. Hold on. I forgot that part. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Invite a guest. Invite a guest. Copy. Let's see. More. Post a comment. And there's the link. It should come up there. There it goes. No, there it is. The link is there. Anybody who wants to join the discussions, just hit that link and I'll add you on to the panel. If you have any questions or comments, please put it in the chat and we'll either Lily or I will address your comments or your whatever. You know what I'm talking about. There's Lily. Hang on, let me get her back on again. Add stage.
Does it matter which way I turn the phone?
No, you look fine just the way you are.
Okay. Okay. You actually
Yeah. I
sound,
don't
your
know what
voice
happened,
is,
Lily. Could you hear me? Could you hear me? I don't. A phone
no,
call came in,
no,
and then I went to press the just to hit the what do you call it? Hang up on the call, let it go
right.
voice message, and when I did that, it just knocked me completely off. But I could hear everything and see everything, but you couldn't hear or see me.
Eh, What I figured out how to look at the comments, and the people were able to, and then I saw you write something, so I kind of tried to figure it out. Um, and I'm,
Okay.
and so if I go back to the chat, then I can read their comments, right? And okay. Somebody, Leonard says, somebody can take my place. Link. Oh, there we are. Okay.
Okay. Hi, Nana Flower Power. Yeah,
And
you
then
want to go ahead and finish with the Leonard's?
Leonard, are you gonna? Did you want to join back so we could
No, he
continue?
said somebody else could take his place.
Okay, gotcha.
So if you would, Lily, just go ahead and finish answering his question.
And which question was that?
I
I
think he
just,
was talking about, he said something that sounded like alien language to him. And no, I think you were discussing how to harness that energy that's around us.
oh yeah, the quantum energy,
Yes.
the quantum field. And I was asking, trying to read and see how many people understand what energy work is, and how the um, energy is able to go past, like, what's here in this room. You can connect to somebody else, and you're able to essentially connect to them. And so that helps you to understand more about the concept of, like, the Tesla energy that he was talking about, being able to connect um, through the airwaves, or just through the ethers, as it were.
Like we're having a discussion right now. Uh,
Yeah,
Everybody's in
essentially.
different locations, but we're talking to each other. We're seeing each other through energy.
Yep, exactly. And so, has everybody in your audience, like Nana Flower Power, and I can see the names now, Laura Pierce, Leonard, um, LA, which I think she said she was at work, so she couldn't go live.
Right.
Um,
Right.
in terms of what is out there being hidden from us, which is why this disclosure is so important for our entire you, global population. It's not an American thing, it's a global population. One of the things that
Absolutely.
Stephen Greer had talked about is he said, if if we have disclosure, there will be no poverty globally. We'll be able to, everyone will experience the goodness from it. Has anyone
The
here
way it's supposed to.
seen Stephen Greer before, or do they know what he's talking about?
Who in the chat has had an opportunity to at least view that video that I put in the description earlier?
Or even a few minutes of it?
Right.
Laura
No.
says
Yeah, be sure you
no.
check that out, Laura. It's in, I put it in the description of the first post that I tried to set up. But go back and look at that video.
That way it will help people to get an inkling of what is going on right now with all these drones, with the craziness of it all. They want us confused. And Stephen Greer talks about it, and he
Absolutely. The
basically says,
fires.
yep. And he basically says the drones are technology that have already been done, reverse engineered by um, humans, by the various nations that have had this type of technology for since the 40s or 50s. And he talked about how even they have you mentioned the fires, which basically a lot of people feel that the fires are done with direct energy weapons, or where they can target areas and they can manipulate the weather. And so he said that they have brought down real alien craft, real extraterrestrial craft, and had conversations with extraterrestrials in general. And he talks about that in that video. And he said that um, they have been using these direct energy weapons on these craft to bring them down. It says, Leonard says, you know what? It might be the mothership connection.
Coming to funk
Um,
us up. And
what,
actually, I think you're spot on there, Leonard, because this whole alien thing has been going on a long, long, long time. And I think that these beings have always been here, and but they're sort of hiding. Yeah, but they've been here a very long time. And if you think about, like the things that have been etched in stone in caves and whatever, they show like thousands and thousands of years ago, these people that lived back then, they painted and carved into stone what they saw. And they, thousands of years ago, were looking in these caves, and they're showing helicopters and beings with like breathing apparatuses on their heads and flying machines and different things. Either they actually saw that or they were high on something.
and there's been in endless amounts of historical paintings, biblical paintings, the what's the representation of a spacecraft in the sky in some of these um, 13th century paintings and before then.
Mhm.
And
Was
Laura
some of them
says
like
she's seen it.
Leonardo da Vinci? I think had some paintings to where he showed like spacecraft in the
Yeah.
background. But if you're not paying attention, you don't really see it. But go back and look at some of those old paintings, and
Mhm.
you'll see it.
It's just amazing what we don't know, what people have only just glimpsed the surface of really the big picture of what's going on because they've worked so hard to keep us in, I, I call it wash, rinse, repeat, just the cycle of being so busy where you're not able to um, learn more about it. And of course, which Dr. Greer does talk a lot about, the disinformation, he had a name for it, the media. It was more than just the media. It was like they're basically the gate holders. They're gate holders, and they're all told what to do. Um, and I think it was around maybe 60 minutes into this video, trying to think where it was, he talked about how there are a lot of good people that um, they want the right thing to happen. They want people to know about these projects. They're called dark projects. They're these hidden projects that are in the private. A lot of them are in the private sector, they call it, and that they are go in there with a good heart. So you're a good person and you go into this job with a good heart. And then you find out that there's all these illegal stuff that they're doing to hide what they're actually creating or what they're doing to humans, like with the energy weapons and stuff. And so he talked about how Bill Clinton had wanted to basically do a type of disclosure. He said he wanted to get to the bottom of it. He wanted to talk about it and know about it. And I remember Bill Clinton even making that statement. Well, I'm going to find out what's going on. And basically, they wouldn't let him, and so
Yeah, shut him down.
they shut him down. He said,
Ken, Kennedy tried too, and they offed him.
it's
Eisenhower
interesting
also.
the way that he said something about Bill Clinton made me wonder something. He said they it was like a train wreck or cataclysmic, or he made some reference to that they really did something like bad to Bill Clinton. And I thought, I wonder if they created somehow another. They said, we'll either make this Monica thing go, that Monica thing go away, or we'll make it your worst nightmare. I just, he just referenced how Bill Clinton was shut down, uh, like a train wreck or something, like he said. Um, but then he talked about, I don't know the age of the people in your audience, but you remember the 60-minute reporter Mike Wallace? He had black hair, and he was a real reporter. And he may even be passed away now. But Mike Wallace, he said that he found out about the alien stuff, and he wanted to do a 60 minutes broadcast on it. He wanted to disclose it, and he had the story already, and they wouldn't let him. And he got, as a result of that, it wasn't just like they wouldn't let him. I mean, they changed things in his world. He got really depressed and suicidal, they said. And I think it was the 90s, he was on Larry King doing an interview, and Larry King asked him something about his career, and he basically said that his career was a lie, that he was a lie because he had ethics. He was like one of the only reporters that I can think of that actually had ethics. And I remember whenever there was um, this vaccine scandal where I'm trying to think what year it was. Monica, you help me if you know which one. Swine flu, I think is what it was. Um, and so
Yeah,
they,
I don't remember the
oh man,
time.
I'm going to have to get that information together. What they did, this is whenever reporting was still real, with reporters was still real. The media wasn't that as controlled as it is now. There is no media now. And they they found out that people were being injured vaccine wise by this particular vaccine, and they had scared everybody into uh, getting this, and a lot of people got sick, and a lot of lawsuits happened. And I remember watching this documentary, and I was like, wow, they actually talked about like stuff in a an ethical way where they talked about the truth. And so basically
Yeah, true
things changed.
journalism.
Yeah, things changed after that where they weren't able to tell the truth anymore. So anybody who's in media now is not out there to tell the truth. I'm going to try and read some of
Yeah,
these comments.
they're all bought, paid for. They're told what to say, when to say, and how to say it
Yeah. And if
across the board.
if they try to not be bought, then they're either silenced, killed,
Hmm.
or something else happens to them.
Yep.
So it
Or
says,
they're framed in some type of way that they're a lunatic, or they did something horribly bad, or something to take them down. You're going to shut up.
yep, exactly. I'm reading the comments.
Yeah. Now, Laura had a question. She says, "What do you think? What do you think?" I think she's saying, "What do you think the end game is?" And I have my own. Um,
Philosophy.
I There's a couple of other videos I posted in the description. They were by Bedell. I think 1040. He's a
Mhm.
young man, and he speaks. It's more esoteric. His esoteric take on what's happening, and from his take, he's saying that the time is up for whoever these beings are that's running the show.
Mhm.
Time is up, and
Yep.
it has something to do with numerology and gematria as
Right.
well too. There's energies coming in from our grand creator, the creator of the cosmos and everything in it. This energy is coming down to help us fully awaken as to
Right.
what's really going on around us. And these beings have done everything that they can to block that by spraying the air, the food, poisoning our food, poisoning the drinking water, um, making us do stuff to block that download that's coming.
And the when you say the beings, it's not just the beings, it's the humans that benefit from keeping us in the dark. And by
Absolutely, the ones that have been compromised and they've been bought and paid for.
right, exactly. And the there's like so many different theories out there. Some talk about different timelines being like people will kind of split and some will go in one time and some will go at another timeline. Um, we're we're at that point where they've made it clear, the evil, the theys that want to keep things status quo, meaning suffering and benefiting financially off of us. Um, they want us to stay this way. But the energies coming in, as you were mentioning, that has that has happened on and off. There's been these influxes, not just Bedell, but lots of different spiritual people over the ages have talked about how there's more energy, more light, more uh, of the veil is thinner. They use different terms to indicate that there's a expansiveness within what where our minds are able to go. And the people who have been able to decalcify their pineal gland, the people who have been able to already open up emotionally to out of the programs that we were taught. And that's part of the issue, is that they um, put these programs, the way that they wanted us to think, into our world in a way to be controlled. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so I
Absolutely.
see
And
LA
you know,
says,
when we're born, we don't truly know who we are, because when we're born, we're given a name, we're given a religion, we're told our country or whatever. We truly don't know who we are. And they've done this deliberately to keep us in the dark, keep us
yes.
in fear and guilt as a means to keep us under control.
So
And
Laura,
they've
when
done
you
it through,
say, so when Laura, you say, what do you think the end game is? I can see her comment here now. Um, that is just what Monica is saying right now, to keep us in their control.
but we are being awakened to
Right.
really, I'm always saying to you guys, remember who and what we are. We are not what they have told us we are. And they're doing everything in their power to keep us here, keep their foot on our necks. What was the name of that book? um I'm trying to that what is that book? I can't think of it now, but it was a book that was written, I think, in the 60s, where these beings, elite, the bad folk, were doing everything that they can to keep their boots on our necks.
Oh, you don't mean the reference to 1984. They call it
Yes,
1984.
yes, that's what I'm
Okay.
talking about.
I think
It was
it might
1984.
even be called
Yeah,
1984. It's basically where they controlled society. They didn't want happiness or joy or love, and it was just to produce, just to work, just to do whatever it is that they said. uh, Everything, just a society of control, intense control.
absolutely. And consume, consume, consume.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Laura,
Now
LA.
the end
Yep.
game, I think, despite everything that they're trying to do to keep us in the dark, to keep control over us, they can't, because their time is up.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
divine clock has been ticking and time is up. So they're doing everything that they can, to clamoring to hold on to that power, but it's over. And I was
Mhm.
mentioning the another video that Vidal did, because he speaks about gematria, and we are living in the age of Aquarius, the age of revealing. Everything that's been done in the dark is coming to light. And even
Yeah.
the Pope, what was it, on New Year's Eve, he opened these doors, portals, because it's
Mhm.
time. He knows that it's time to give the keys back
Yeah. They
to go
to
ahead.
they know that this phase of humanity, because this is not the first time there's been a reset. And if you understand what does that word reset mean? Um, what it
I
means
think
to
it kind of
me.
means like the fall of mankind, the
Mhm.
fall.
Yeah. And
Yeah, we're not gonna fall this time.
no, and whenever history has been changed and erased, and there's too much evidence of it, that that like it's like wiping our memories. Okay, they want to wipe our
Yes,
memories, wipe us out, and restart society yet again with their control over us. This is not the first time they've brought us to this place um, where we know something's not right, and that gets into. And I don't know if you've talked about this subject with your people or not. Basically, the concept of that the reincarnation loop is part of their, um, this is one theory, okay, that it's part of their making to keep them continuing with always having a fresh source of suffering, of
Yes.
people doing the reincarnation loop. They call it because it's actually a planet that's like a prison. And the planet is not going to be able to be held down anymore because it's entering another one of those cycles where the light becomes so strong that they can't stop what's coming. And that's why they're not able to stop because the light is coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just had a thought and it kind of it went away just now. Um, oh, somebody keeps popping messages in here. Um, I forgot
Oh,
what I was going
there.
to say.
It's the comments are
Does
kind of
anybody
weird,
else
but
have any questions? Let's see if I can get rid of that. How do I get rid of this? Hold on. There we go. There we go. Got that off. Yeah. That's what I was going to go with when you mentioned that the fall of mankind. Um, even when you look at the pyramids, thousands of years ago, I was listening to Billy Carson, and he was speaking about they in the pyramids they had lights.
mm-hmm,
You were able to have lights in the pyramids,
mm-hmm,
and then all these different civilizations, and there's evidence that there's been multiple civilizations before us. Like the
yes,
ice caps are melting now in Antarctica. It's showing pyramids there at the bottom of the ocean. They have to where evidently floods have come, and there were whole
mhm.
cities under the
Mud floods.
ocean.
Yep, they call it the
Yes,
mud floods. Um, so
yes,
where you talked about the different civilizations. So if you go back to the 1800s and and like now when you think of other countries and other cities where they have this amazing architecture and they'll say, oh yeah, that's from the 1700s or 1600s, that architecture. How does that compare to today? Today we're like in the dark ages in terms of what the beauty and what they had back then. And there there was this, I think, a reset in like the somewhere in the 1700s, maybe late 1600s, 1700s to the
uh-huh.
1800s, where like they had a mud flood, they had an event, some sort of event that happened, and some of the buildings survived. And when you look at those countries and those history now, you find out that like parts of their house are under the ground now. Like they had like a maybe 3 or 4 story building. That part of it is under the ground because something happened in our, what do you want to call it, recent past. I mean, how far
Yes,
they had that. Sorry. And they um, experienced things getting wiped out, the culture, different, sometimes entire populations of people disappeared. So it's not the first time this has happened. Sorry. And there's
yeah,
this guy.
like the Mayans, They said they just totally just disappeared. Where did they
Yeah.
go?
Yeah. Where?
And I have my own ideas about that. Like I've said before, that these beings, um, I think that we live in different dimensions
Hmm.
that are very close together.
Yeah.
And I think what simply happened is these Mayans just shifted over to a different dimension that
And
was really close.
I'm going to throw out because a lot of things, just being able to explore potentiality mentally, doesn't, and if you talk about it, doesn't mean that you're hard and fast. That's your belief. You should be able to explore just what is the possibilities. But that dimension, I think that the spirit world that we refer to now as the spirit world, I think that's one of those dimensions. I think it's
I think so too.
um, where you, okay, so you die and you're in that immortal state. You're back without a body, but yet you're still connected or able to connect with the vibration of where you left. And I think that's kind of how people are able to, on different levels, perceive the spirit world. That's because I think it's just um, one of those vibrations that are there. And I also think that one reason why there's confusion with some people who are in the spirit world is because they're going by the programs that they had in that lifetime. They haven't evolved to the point of realizing, oh, I'm back in my normal state. I'm back in my
Right.
normal state, my non bodied state. I'm consciousness again. But then there's still like looking and seeing the screen of maybe what's in the other vibration. And I think that there's beings all around us. And I,
Absolutely.
it's like you don't then have the fear that we're taught to have when you think in it as not a place to be afraid of, like life and death to be afraid of. I think that the chasm is closing in the unknown consciousness. People are tapping into that more and more and more. And that's because we're coming more to our normal awareness state, which is what they really don't want.
Right, right, right. And when you were speaking about the reincarnation wheel,
Mhm.
um, we are taught early to
Oh,
fear
yeah.
death.
Yep.
And if you're not good, if you don't listen to God, and you're going to burn forever in hell.
Or
So
the
when you
programs.
die,
Follow the
or the
programs.
programs. So when your meat suit is gone, or it
Right.
dies, then your spirit is free. But if you adhere to the program, then you're going to wind up saying, oh, you go to the light, and you're going to see you have to go to for judgment day, and you get in front of the God sitting on the throne, and he says, you did this and you did that and you did that. You're going to have to go back and learn. You have to go back and learn your lesson again.
Mhm.
And if you're when you die, whatever your program is strongest in you, you're going to repeat the process. And that's how they keep this wheel going.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And whenever you have, like a person who's had a near death experience, um, it's interesting that some people, they'll see like the devil and God, they'll see heaven and hell, they'll see what their religious uh, concepts or programs taught them. And then if they come back, then they're, very, very, praise Jesus, praise the Lord. They're very, very animated in how they feel they have to be in order to not go back to that dark place. And I think that these were just created as little things for us to plant these seeds in our minds just to control, because it's like it's because I'm so far away from that. um I see somebody just wrote, empath, baby, are you an empath? Yes, ma'am, I am an empath.
Yeah, she is. Very
Yes.
strong empath.
um there's different types of empaths. um everybody has that empathy, okay, that level of empathy. Whereas some of us were you're either born like that or you evolve more into it, and it's where you're able to connect, like I was talking about quantum, where you're able to connect more than, say, somebody who maybe um, they're not able to feel outside of the normal awareness. And so what happens is, as an empath, you're like this open thing that experiences all kinds of stuff. And but I I wasn't taught, because of my religious background is the same as Monica's, so we had the same programs, and one of them was, we didn't talk about that stuff. We didn't talk about, I had never even heard the word empath. Okay. I didn't even know what it was, not even there. And so I didn't have the negatives or those seeds planted in my mind as I was evolving. I just thought it was normal. I thought it was natural. I thought it was kind of like how everybody was. The same thing with being where you're clairaudient, or some of, they're called the different um, uh, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentient is feeling. So those are your we'll just say extraterrestrial senses. I was trying to think, because that's more of a natural state whenever we're able to tap into those feelings. And so, what I was trying to explain about healing or Tesla energy is, because I am an empath, because I'm an empathic a energy healer, I'm able to, it, it didn't come from a book. It didn't come from anybody teaching me, because I was a Jehovah's Witness. It definitely wasn't being taught there. And
Oh
so,
no, that was
I,
considered Zoominism.
yeah, it's like, and if I had known that as to what I was or what I was doing, I would have been like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go, you know, not going to go to hell. Because they don't believe in hell,
No,
Jehovah's
Jehovah's gonna
Witnesses.
strike you dead.
Yeah, that's it. I'm done. Um, so that developed in me as a young child, where I would think in my head and talk to my horse that I was riding. I would think what I wanted it to do, and it would do it. And I didn't know the word was telepathy. I just thought it was me connecting with my horse. Okay. And so those natural abilities developed in a way without the negative words telling me I was doing something wrong. I developed naturally. And so um, I learned how to uh, work with being an empath, that taught me how to feel the energy of another person when it's appropriate, to like tap into them and feel like their pain, or feel where there's like something happening, and I'm able to, just by being in the now, being very still, I'm able to send that energy or healing energy, that healing light, to the other person. And that person then can feel it. It's kind of like we're working together. And I'm like the tool that's doing the work, but it's this healing light that is coming from, in my opinion, the consciousness of our higher selves, and the consciousness of all that is. It's like that natural state. I think that's how I view it, is I'm tapping into that natural state and allowing that to flow, allowing that to happen.
And
And
I can personally attest to that because a couple of weeks ago, I just recently had major surgery, as you guys know, and I was in a lot of pain. So I reached out to my sister, and And actually a couple of times she reached out to me and asked me, "Are you in pain?" Without me calling her. She knew something was going on. And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Let me just get quiet." And then she was able to tell me exactly where my pain was without me telling her.
Yeah, it's like,
From She's in what, Utah, and I'm in Missouri.
yeah, I get like an awareness of it. Like, for example, y'all all know, because you're Monica's people, you know that she had hernias. She had these three hernias, and then she had, what's that fancy name, Monica, that you had done?
A paniculectomy,
That,
my bacon slab removal.
right. So you had that done. So you had more than one thing. But whenever she was uh, struggling there a little bit, um, I was getting an awareness, and it was like if I put my hand under my breastbone and a palm down, I could feel where it was on my body. And so I could feel what it was is where the hernias were. And so what they,
Yep.
as the body, where it was discomfort for her, then I could feel that area and confirm it by telling her exactly where I was feeling it. And so it's a really amazing process that happens because, um, like, it's like I can't really see how much of my body you can see, so I'll just try and do it up here on my face because I know that at least I can see this far. I can't see below my neck. So let's say I had something going on in this part of my chin or this part of my gum line. Okay. And actually, I mean, Monica had that going on. Let's say she had teeth pain or something going on right there. I would feel it in my area, work on it I use my hands like they're like tools, like, like that. And the energy goes there, and I would be able to send the energy, and then Monica will feel it on her and relieving the pressure or the pain on her. That's quantum energy.
Yes.
That's a miraculous thing that I think is one of the abilities that we all have, that we have that
I
ability.
totally concur with that. I think we all have that. And actually, Yeshua, Jesus, whatever you want to call him, I call him Yeshua. Yeshua let us know that. He told us, or he told his disciples, he says, when they were marveling at all the wonderful things that he could do, he says,
Right.
do you think that, he says, if you think this is something, he says, what you will do greater things than I. He says, do you not know that you are gods?
Hmm.
What did he mean by that? So I think we all have the same abilities. We just haven't tapped into them yet. And mainly, I think for me, mainly because of my upbringing as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, that was demonic. That was of the devil. You don't talk about that. That's voodoo, hoodoo, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And we were steered clear away from that. And even in the scriptures, and I might step on somebody's toes that are um, I might step on some toes there, but I think the scriptures have been manipulated to
Yeah.
to uh, to paint a certain picture and to
And
keep us away from stay away from spiritism, stay away from divination. It's an abomination, blah 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 blah. But when it's really not.
and Laura notes here, I'm reading a comment. She says, I didn't understand it, so I would run from it. And so I think she's probably referencing understanding about that type of energy healing ability. And and when you
Mhm.
said,
She's an
see,
XJW too, Lily.
okay, good. And so, um, you know how you said, well, it would be an abomination. See, I didn't realize that I was doing that thing that they would have called. So I didn't have, I wasn't projecting anything onto myself. I wasn't projecting fear onto myself as if I was doing something against God, because it was, in other words, it was just a natural ability that developed. And part of it, I think, had to do with being living on a farm and being exposed to all the farm animals and watching how they respond whenever you would be thinking something, because animals have the ability for telepathy just as much as people do. And so people
Absolutely.
get very connected to their pets. And so they're your friends. And so, you know, that's one reason why people do form such a close attachment to your pets, is because you are connecting with them. They do know what's going on with you. And um, I think that the 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 purpose of trying to keep us out of this way, our natural way, was because they didn't want us to awaken sooner. They didn't, they wanted to villainize if somebody had like abilities, or if somebody had a knowing, or they understood more about the cosmos, or they understood more about how our body works. I think that people, um, it's like, if you take away all the things that kept us closed off from ourselves, I don't think they would have been able to stretch it out this long, our torture. I don't think they would have been able to have this far of control against people.
Absolutely. Now, S Peaks has a question. I keep hearing that this is the last reincarnation cycle. Do you have any information on that? The little bit of information I have on that is, I've heard also this is the last time. This is the last time that that humankind is going to fall. That we're entering into a golden age. We're going to fully awaken, and this crap is not going to happen again. Do you have anything to add to that, Lily?
Um, I definitely sincerely hope so. um,
Yeah, I
I
don't want to do this mess again. I'm not going
hell
back to
no.
sleep. No.
Um, Whenever you talk about the reincarnation cycle, and because the concept of it, like if you take a little bit of Buddhism and different types of information, is supposedly to go back to learn until you eventually learn it all. I think that's kind of a disinformation program. I don't think the concept of pain and suffering is something that a loving creator would actually want us to experience. So I think that's another one of those things that maybe was used to control people to keep going through the process. Um, what I have heard, which sounds more to what feels more right um, to me, because I'm not 100, I can't give you a definitive because so much is out on that in what it's evolving for me. I'll put it that way. Um, is that that process was created, the reincarnation process was created. But if we haven't raised our vibration, our mental, emotional, physical concept to be more aware, then we're just being pushed into doing stuff. We're just repeating without a consciousness. And it does seem that there is quite a few people who their consciousness level has reached up, that I can see them saying, nope, not repeating it. I have no desire to repeat it. And that goes to that another theory I had referenced a little bit ago, and that is there is more than one timeline of what you're on. They say,
Right.
some say that this is not what they call prime Earth. They say it's this is a simulation. This is the Matrix.
Yeah, a
And
matrix, whatever you want to call it. I call it a Sims game.
yeah,
And we are the ones who we've awakened to this is I think part of it is knowing or awakening to the fact I'm in a freaking Sims game,
yeah,
and you
it's
understand
madness.
where you are.
If
Yes.
people can't
And the
recognize
movies
it,
that come out like
oh yeah,
Neo, the in the Matrix.
yep, yep.
Yeah,
And it's like if people don't think that there's something really wrong or upside down with how the world is, if they haven't questioned it, then they are definitely, in my opinion, if there is reincarnation, they are headed for it because they have
absolutely.
they have no desire to awaken out of the stupor or
Yeah,
to see beyond because I mean, for me, it drives me nuts. It just really does that nothing makes sense anymore. People, how people think. It's like we're all being pushed at so much. And then they say that, part of they call them ascension symptoms, or where we're experiencing things where we're kind of like walking one foot in one dimension, one foot in another dimension. I feel like that. It's like just sometimes the concept of even getting out of bed or the pressure that you feel, it's because something about the time we're in is becoming too hard to exist in. And so
absolutely. And I think it
it,
has a lot to do with the energy that's coming in.
yeah, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And it's very hard. It's
And also we also have free will, a free choice.
mhm.
We have that we can make the decision if we want to stay in this matrix, if we're more comfortable here. Some people are not ready to wake up. Some people are okay with repeating the process. All I can say is to each his own.
Yeah, and I think that some people have a lot of strikes against them because um, they have there's a lot of things, you the foods that you're eating, the chemicals that are endlessly in just about everything, the fluorides that are in the water purposely to calcify your awareness, your pineal gland, your ability to think clearly. Um, they dull the senses where you're just kind of like just walking through, repetitively doing what you're told to do. It's like that's on purpose, and I think that's really contributed a lot to people not being able to wake up, not being able to see, and
Yeah.
especially
And when
now.
you said and when you Yeah, and
Go
when you
ahead.
said that, Lily, you know what? Well, I just said that it's free will, but it seems like some of that has been taken away from us because of
Yeah,
what they're bombarding us with, the
I
chemicals
do.
and the water and the food and the things and whatever. Yeah, we didn't choose that. That was put upon us.
No, you're right. It was put upon us, but then why is it you or me or maybe the people in your audience? Why is it their minds would ponder stuff outside of the narrative they're told? Because there's a lot of people who don't question the narrative. They just go right along with it. But then there
Right.
are those that I feel that you push yourself to want to know. You do. And I don't have an answer for why some people are able to push themselves more than others. But it maybe it's because you've been back more times. I don't know. I mean, there was a guy I knew who did this thing where he was able to uh, supposedly read how many lifetimes you had. And I say supposedly because who knows. And so when he was doing his system that he did it, he said there was 2 or 3 of us there. He said, "Oh, you've lived 300 and something times. You've lived 100 and something times. Oh, you've lived 1,000. All these different people." And when he got to me, he says, "This is interesting." I says, "What?" He says, "You've had 3 lifetimes." And so, the concept of when people say you're an old soul, well, how could I be an old soul if I've
Right.
only had supposedly
The
three
three.
lifetimes? Or another
Wow.
person said, well, that's because you became a bodhisattva. And I'm like, I knew the term, but I says, well, what do you mean? And they are a person who had studied uh, not just yoga, but all the stuff about yoga. They had become a yogi master or whatever it's called in their profession, and also learning about all those Middle Eastern terms and what they mean. And so she said, then you chose to come back, is what she said. You already figured out how to not come back, but you chose to come back. And I was thinking, oh boy, was that a mistake?
To
Because
help to help to help guide
I'm like,
others
oh my
out
God,
of
this
here.
is, yeah, it's like, I can't imagine wanting to keep doing this and doing this and doing this. It's so difficult. Um, but it if there is a way to get off of this cycle, this wheel, this whatever it is, I think more than ever we are at that time period in our history of the way that our history evolves and the planet keeps going. I think more than ever, just like you were referencing before, that we are at that point where we can awaken, we can understand, and not fall into the trap of just being somebody that's like they call sheep, herded around, do what they say,
Right.
be a worker bee, you know, all the different things that just take all the joy out of life. Life isn't that that fear of torture is often that program is often what keeps
Right.
people doing it because they're
On that
afraid
cycle.
of death, just like you said at the beginning. That they're afraid of the death.
And when the reality is death is just a doorway.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
when I said that, I remember the when Yeshua says the true meaning of follow me out of here, and to get out of this. Uh,
Go ahead.
another call came in and messed me up again.
Are you still there?
Let's see if I can get back here. Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Oh man.
We can hear you, but I can hear you this time.
Okay. Well, I'll just leave it alone. Someone keeps sending pictures and stuff here, and it messes things up.
Oh,
And I went to try and stop it. Let's see if I can get back on. Nope, I'm out of here again.
so I see
Keep
this
talking,
comment.
Lily. I'll figure it out.
I see this
Can you see me at
comment.
all?
Um, no, ma'am, I cannot see you,
Okay.
but I
Okay.
can hear you. This time I can hear you. I couldn't hear
All
you
right.
before. And I'm going back to the comments, and the person uh, that speaks. Thanks, ladies. I definitely don't want to repeat this again. I feel so drained of energy at times. Yes, sir. I 100% agree with you. Absolutely. Um, and then Stephen S. says, anyone talking about those orbs flying around, everyone's seeing them all over the place. So, Stephen, um, it's a little bit challenging for me to see the chat, but I was able to see that one question. So if you want to join the stream yard in that link, you can interact easier. I'll try and read whatever else you ask, but in that video that Monica originally posted that had to do with the man named Stephen Greer. If you will go and watch that video, he's calling it Stephen Greer podcast number one, because he's going to be doing this because he knows personally that there are a few whistleblower top level people that are going to be talking about um, the hidden things that have to do with, like you're saying, the flying orbs, but also what has been hidden from us for, say, definitely since the 40s and 50s. The technology, the free energy, all the things that are available. That's why they don't want us to know, is because um, they don't want to stop the control over mankind. They don't want to. Um, they don't want to stop their gravy train, is what it is, because so many things are available. And so Stephen Greer said that whenever the guys kind of running the show, and that wouldn't necessarily be the government, it would be the people whom have reverse engineered this technology long ago, and that they don't want people to realize that it is man-made, that reverse engineered from actual alien aircraft that has been brought down, and so therefore they're trying to add confusion into the mix, and so um, they're hoping that people will be so confused and they'll just like discount it all, that they won't think that extraterrestrial stuff is actually real, or that it's not something to be feared, and that is one of the things, is they really want humans to to be in fear of what they have made the unknown. It wasn't always unknown, it was that those in control have made it unknown. And I see here that, Stephen, you're not able to join at the moment. But oh, it
Right,
says
right,
now
right.
we can see
Right.
Monica. Monica, you're back.
Yes, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. Yeah. Yeah. I wish these attachments and pictures and things stop coming through because it throws everything off. But I personally think that there's definitely reverse engineered craft that's flying around, that's been done by our
Us.
governments all
Yeah,
over the world.
yeah, exactly.
But these plasmoid type orbs
Mm-hmm.
that are being seen everywhere, I I think that they are light beings
Mm-hmm.
coming from different dimensions, different planets. I'm not sure, but I don't think, I truly believe that these are light beings, and I think is what we really are. I think that we are these light beings, and they're coming in, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's coming directly from the divine creator, from the sun. And if you guys
Mm-hmm.
have been watching the coronal mass ejections coming off the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, there's a huge serpent like crack in the sun. And I think that's where this energy is coming through. And I know it sounds crazy as heck,
No, it doesn't sound crazy,
but
because
the truth is stranger than fiction sometimes, y'all.
and more than ever, that veil of secrecy is thinner than ever. And so seeing things in those other dimensions is happening so much more than it has in such a long time, because um, that energy, that light, like you said, is coming in and making it um, so we are closer to understanding um, about what is unseen. That is because when it's not seen, it's like, well, there's the mystery, isn't it? What is it? But if you take away the mystery and you able to realize, like, if you remember the movie Cocoon, um,
Yep.
and when they were in their light body, remember how they were cloaked in their human
Yes.
body into a certain way. They were cloaking their light body.
Yes.
So they
And I
have been
think that's
showing
what we
us,
all are.
yeah, yeah,
We are those light beings.
yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions? Because we've been on here for a while. We're going to go ahead and kind of wrap it up a little bit. But if anyone has any questions or comments, go ahead and pop it in the chat. But as far as whatever's going on around us, guys, this is not the time to be afraid, not the time to go back to sleep. Go ahead, Lily.
I was going to read Stephen's comment. He says, has anyone watched the UFO
Oh,
conferences where all the states come together about all the activities going on? Okay, Stephen, go and watch that video. Dr. Greer
yes.
is going to talk about that. And you're going to learn definitely a lot more as it's going on that um, what they're actually giving people is like at these conferences and stuff, or at the congressional hearings and the different things. It is a sprinkling of information. Real disclosure is where they don't hide the technology, the free energy, the healing
Yes.
technologies, all those things that they have been hiding. That's what real disclosure is about, which is what a lot of people need or want to know, what the real disclosure, so there's no confusion. And also, real disclosure takes away the fear of extraterrestrials or, aliens, or the propaganda of what it's like. Now, yes, there are beings that are nefarious in nature, and those that are working with the ones that are the humans that are hiding the technology, those beings don't want real disclosure either. That's not who we really are part of. That's like,
Right.
if you want to say good and evil, they're on the side of evil. They want people to
Yes.
continue the reincarnation loop and continue their evil and continue all the horrendous, ugly, ugly things that man and beings not of light have done and continue to do. And all those dark areas that have to do with human trafficking, child trafficking, the byproduct that comes with that, which I don't know if you get a strike if you talk about those things or not. Um, but that's very real. And that is also part of disclosure, because then you learn the darker side of those that have been keeping people in the dark for their own purposes, that have to do with things that go way, 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 way back in our history. You know, what they would do to various humans, they're slaves on all different levels. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't know if you
Absolutely.
can
And
talk about those
that's a
subjects.
real thing. Yeah, that's
So
definitely a real thing. With all these the child sacrifices and the
yeah,
torturing of children to
right.
the point of, to the point to when they're about to die, they've been tortured so badly. these children, what happens is they secrete this a hormone called adrenochrome,
Yes.
and these beings feed off of that. And the same beings also feed off of our fear
Right.
and being unsure about things. They call it loosh.
Yep.
So it's in their best interest to keep us in that lower vibration, because that's their energy, that's their food. They don't want us to rise above, because they'll starve. So it looks like I've lost Lily now. Um, Now let's see. Robert says cocoon is like watchtower teachings. Um, how do you say that? Because if I remember the movie correctly, it was I think it was kind of like talking about the golden age. I'm not sure what you mean. How you correlate that with watchtower teachings. I know watchtower teaches about the new system and a new world, and they even talk about a new world order. But they're talking about that Jesus is gonna rule for 1,000 years, and the all the sick will be healed, and the people that have died are going to be resurrected, and all of that. Is that what you're speaking of, Robert? Let's see now. Take that off. Now Stephen says, I'm aware they're not saying everything. I've heard about the health tech. I personally met someone that was healed. It was really interesting what he told me. Wow. Yeah, I think about that too. If there is this technology out there, I kind of imagine myself going into like one of these pods, that like they do in the movies. That's probably true. You go into this pod and it scans you about whatever ailment you have, and it'll completely heal you, and it'll make you, if you're all wrinkled and old and decrepit, it'll revitalize you. Now, if that's truly one of the deals, I wish I would have went into one of them pods before having to physically go through this painful surgery. Um, that would be messed up, wouldn't it? Let's see. Let's see, going into the water and getting young again. Yeah, kind of like the fountain of youth, um, life's waters. I don't know. I still don't understand what you mean about that, Robert. Hang on. I think that yeah, that's Lily back again. Maybe Lily can share with us. Uh, Robert, let's see. Robert was saying, Lily, that cocoon is like the watchtower teachings. And then he says, like going into the water and getting young again.
Yeah, I understand what he means because that was one of the things that they would tell us, you'll never grow old and die. You'll
Right.
be you'll go into the water and you'll come out young again. So that is interesting because um, the concept of why some people, I think, embrace the Jehovah Witness religion is because of that concept of never growing old and dying and not having to suffer and to being in a paradise earth where all the evil is gone. I mean, you think about it, isn't that what we really want? But the way
Yeah.
Watchtower wants to do it is control, control, fear, guilt, shame, all of that. That's
Right.
the
Right.
that's the byproduct that you have to endure in order to achieve those things their way. But in terms of Watchtower, I think it's been proven by many people that Watchtower was started in the 1800s. Of course, it wasn't called Watchtower, but one of those
Bible
government
student.
control programs,
Yes.
one of those,
Russellites.
yeah, Russell, and he was part of the Freemason Society, and one of those government connections, and they wanted to be able to have test programs, and I think Jehovah Witnesses were one of those early control tests. How much can we control in a religious element what people will do? How far and what will they do or not do to be in what they have been told is a protected environment or a protective um, pathway to be able to go through Armageddon and be protected in a way. I think that it was it was created and executed upon a few people, and that little hook, you won't grow old and die, your sins will be washed
Hmm.
clean, all of that stuff. I think those were the hooks. And then it kind of
Yep.
evolved
And you
into
get
its
to
own
see all your
monster.
loved ones again.
Yep, yep,
And you get to see
exactly.
all your loved ones again.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why my sister, she's just hopelessly lost in that organization, and I know a big pull for her is she's afraid that she's not going to see our dad again
Mhm.
or her daughter that died tragically.
Yep.
And I think that's what really has put a lock on her. She refuses to listen to anything else.
Well, they're brainwashed, like so many people are
Absolutely.
brainwashed and
Mind controlled.
mind controlled. Exactly. And whenever you learn more about Jehovah Witnesses, and there's a lot of XJWs who have done this, and they bring, as they say, the receipts. They bring the proof to the table of the connection to the New World Order. And when you think about it, our Bible was called the New World Order. Dummies. That was our Bible, the New
Yes.
World Order. I mean, I will never forget, being a teenager and everything was about ushering in the New World Order. And then whenever I
New
heard
World Order.
Bush, the older Bush, say it, all of a sudden I had this like, what, what, what did he
I
just say?
was like, whoa. Yes, I did the same thing.
Yeah,
I did the same thing.
yeah. And then
Yeah, and then to
whenever
go down to
you learn about
go ahead, darling.
the what do you call it, connections, the governing body. If you there are Jehovah Witnesses that are X's, and some of them are like 1 foot in and 1 foot out. PMOs, they call them, physically and mentally out, where they
Right.
have leaked out information and they've done undercover work, so to speak. And there's this one YouTuber, her family has been Freemason Jehovah Witnesses her entire life, and she was raised
Right.
as a Freemason Jehovah Witness. The Jehovah Witness part was known, the Freemason part was hidden, but she grew,
Absolutely.
that she knew it. And I remember when she was, using pictures, photographs from magazines or from, their website, once they went more high tech, um, of the rings that the governing body wore, and they're of the Freemason rings. And it's like the connections are all there. And it's a it's a perfectly executed plan. I don't know how many Jehovah Witnesses there are now, but there used to be. They used to have at least, I think, 5 million. They used to say, um, that's 5 million people that were neatly being controlled, and
Absolutely.
um, so
And
I
a
think,
lot of Jehovah's Witnesses don't want to believe but about the Freemason ties, that Charles Taze Russell was a 33-degree Mason. So was his father. And even when you look at the Kingdom Hall, they
yeah,
call it a Kingdom Hall, like a
yeah,
Masonic hall.
I know. There's it's just,
It's
and what's interesting. You remember whenever they we all got kind of excited as ex JWs that they were changing the shunning rule. You remember that?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
So I have a wonderful family that in the year 2000, when I officially said I'm not going back to the religion, I'm not going back to meetings, um, I didn't do anything that would have had me in any bad standing or anything. I just openly stated, because they knew I had been questioning things and struggling about things for most of my JW life. And when I heard that they had did this, I called each family member, and like some of them had been 20 or more years since I had spoken to them because they didn't want to talk to me. And when I would have a family business and I would like say, I need to ask some questions, one of those excuses they will talk to you. If I started to ask, well, how are you doing? They would say, we can't talk about anything. Just, are you done? Have you found out what you needed to know? And, go on. So I asked my elder brother, and he explained it to me. And he said, basically, if you were going to be at a meeting, we could say hello to you. We could say hello to you. We could do a greeting. And as my sister, my pioneer sister, explained to me, she said, um, unless you're going to be at the meetings, then we still view you as um, dead, or we view you apostate or whatever,
Spiritually dead, apostate,
spiritually dead.
demon, whatever.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
And so I
Yep.
said,
Yep. Yep.
I said to my brother, so basically nothing has changed. And he said, well, I guess you could say that, just said if you're at the Kingdom Hall, they can speak to you. We couldn't have a meal with you. We couldn't invite you over to hang out or any. So nothing's changed about it. They just tried to make that a little
Right.
PR campaign. So,
Yeah,
which
to
is kind of,
protect them from lawsuits because there's been lawsuits now.
yeah.
Yeah. It's all
And
about
there's,
money, power, and control. Yep.
yep.
Yep. I was talking to my sister too because I was started when I started researching the Sumerian text, and I was able to get to the point where I realized who the Most High over all the earth is. And according to the Sumerian text, it is Lord Enlil, an extraterrestrial or interdimensional being. Uh, it sounds really weird, but in the Sumerian text, it speaks of Lord Enlil being the Lord of the sky, and he chose a people for his name. And in the Bible, it says in Psalms 83:18, the Most High over all the earth is who? Yahweh Jehovah. And when you trace back the names and the king's list and everything all the way back to the Sumerian text, it's Lord Enlil, the Most High over all the earth, an interterrestrial, interdimensional being. Here's Lily again. You get we're having a lot of difficulties, technical
No, no, what
difficulties today.
happened is I figured out that when I hit the back button to go out of the comments to read the comments,
Uh,
that um, I guess if I hit it the wrong way, it exits everything out. So
yeah,
I was
yeah.
trying to read the comments, and it was Xing me out. So um,
Let's see, Robert. Let's see, Robert. Let's see what Robert says. Robert says, I'm lost outside of it, but I think it's about heaven and Christ. And there's some hope, but not sure anymore.
you mean you're lost outside of the religion, Robert? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. That's what my sister always said. She says there's nothing else. What else is there? So and she has shared with me that she has some doubts as well, but the indoctrination is so deep and the fear is just so much for her. She would much rather stay in this religion that she has some doubt about because she feels like there's nothing else out there.
So this is a question for Robert. You hit the X button, not the back button. That's how I just figured that out of the comments. Um, Robert, are you what would be classified as a PMO? Are you um, sort of in Watchtower 1 foot, so to speak? Is that what it is? Yes, but I look at the Bible only now. What does that mean?
I think what he's saying is that he's putting his hope, I guess, in the scriptures, hoping that the scriptures will guide him in the right way. That's what I think it is. And for a while I thought that too, Robert, until you really start researching. And when you look at those Sumerian texts, I don't know if you've ever explored that or researched that, but the Sumerian texts predate the Bible by 2,500 years. And
Mhm.
some of the same stories in those Sumerian texts is the same stories that's in the Bible. How
Right.
can that be? If the Bible is the inspired word of God, every dot and tittle, however it goes, how is it that the same stories were told 2,500 years prior to the Bible?
He says XJW now. How long have
Okay.
you been in XJW, Robert? I guess there's a delay,
Yeah,
but I
maybe
do see
so.
he says he's in XJW now.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm going to go back through here real quick.
It says, "Oh wow, didn't know that. We'll check out." Oh, good. Okay. Um,
Yeah, please do.
yeah, uh, you're not the only person to, after leaving the religion, still hold dearly to scriptures. Um,
Right.
and a lot of people have different types of biblical beliefs. Um, what Monica did is go before the Bible, and the stuff that she learned led her to what is the historical conclusions. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that's super hard to be able to conceptualize in somebody's mind that what we what we and maybe our parents and maybe our grandparents were taught and to hold dear actually was part of a lie or part of a purposeful, I call them program, other people call them programs, things to keep you focused from being your true self, from knowing who you generally are rather than whom you've been told to be. And then called
Absolutely.
being um, able to go past the programs and to critical think. It's, I think, the case for not being a Jehovah Witness or moving past it has been made um, by thousands of XJW YouTubers, and there are many of them. Oh my gosh, there are so many of them that you see them telling their stories. I was an elder, my father was an elder, and blah, blah, blah. And then they research certain points which blow away the whole paradigm that it's the one true religion. Once you blow that away and you let yourself, because
Absolutely.
Jehovah Witnesses, you think you're special, you think you're the one, right? So once you go past that, then you really open up that door to starting to let yourself critical think, logically think, and then base that up with historical information like Monica has. And
Yeah.
I remember um, several years ago when Monica was still like going through different scriptures and she was reading this and she was reading that. And then when you realize it's the same story, the same, story of, you realize, okay, it was put in as a control. And it still works on some, but um, I think there's other reasons to be outside of JW religion. The Bible sounds dark and sinister. The
Yeah,
JW religion is very um, controlling to a fault, that it'll cut you off from everybody you know and you love. You know, I
absolutely.
I haven't had.
And the cat
I lost.
the cat.
I was.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to say. I had 40 years of family and best friends, lots of friends, and then I was cut off from that. I died to all of them when I refused to come back to meetings. That
Absolutely.
is just, you know, it's the kind of thing that wrecks people emotionally, where they're not able to, just like, Robert has a little bit of JW still left in him. And it's very hard. It really
Yeah,
is.
that
I
stuff runs
understand.
deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, for me, when my foot, I was kind of like you, Lily. I always questioned. I remember sitting in the Kingdom Hall at the age of 12 years old,
Mhm.
watching the sisters dabbing their eyes and the brothers nodding about how wonderful it was to be in Jehovah's spiritual paradise.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting there thinking something must be wrong with me. I must be a goat in a whole congregation of sheep. Um,
Yeah.
but my father, when on his dying bed, he said to me, he says, Monica, please don't let me wake up in the new system and you're not there. He says, stay in Jehovah's organization. That's the ark, Monica. Promise me that you'll stay in the ark. And I said, I'll try, Daddy, I'll try.
Stay in
And
the
after he passed
matrix.
away, yes, stay in
Stay
the
in the
matrix.
matrix,
So,
Monica.
so nah, sorry, Dad, can't
Yeah.
do it. But after that, I remembered his words, and I said, okay, uh, I need to. I had this feeling like, what if I'm wrong? What if this feeling that I have is wrong, and my
Mhm.
dad is correct?
Mhm.
And I'm messing up. So I decided I need to do everything that I need to do to make the truth my own.
Mhm.
So I got back into I was considered inactive at the time. So I got back had the meeting with the elders and told them that I wanted to, get back in the organization and all of that stuff. And it got to a point where I was going back door to door, knocking on the doors again. And the question came up about this whole 1914 607 BCE thing. It made no sense to me. So I started researching and researching and researching and trying to understand it, and had Bible studies with a couple of the elders' wives to help me
Uh-huh.
to understand this. And it still didn't make any sense to me. And finally, the elders told me, well, you just keep praying to Jehovah, and he will open up your mind and your heart, and you'll be able to absorb it then. So it was back on me. It was something defective in me that I didn't understand it. So I said, okay. So I started doing going to jw.org, researching what the brothers have lovingly provided for us. And it still didn't make a bit of sense to me. And I
Uh-huh.
remember shaking like a leaf because I had already decided in my mind I was going to go outside of jw.org and go on the demonic internet
Look where it led to.
to do some research. And I
Uh-huh.
remember shaking like a leaf, thinking Jehovah was going to strike me dead through the
Mhm.
keystrokes. But when I hit that button and all that information came up about the Freemason ties, uh, about Beth Sarin, how, what was his name? The Judge
Mhm.
Rutherford had this beautiful mansion
Mansion. Mhm.
built because Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were coming back, and
Mhm.
they had to provide a beautiful home for them. and had got all this money from the different congregations to build this wonderful place, and somehow they didn't come back. So Judge Rutherford moved into the house with his family, and just lots of other stuff came out, and all about the pedophilia too in the organization. That all came up, and I was shocked and appalled. And even then, seeing all that information come back at me, it took my breath away. It was like the rug was pulled from underneath me, because that's all I'd ever known. Even though deep inside I knew something was wrong with it, it was devastating
Yeah.
once that rug was fully pulled from underneath me, and I was able to see, wow, I was angry and I was hurt. Then I decided, okay, I still kind of believed in the Bible. I was
Hmm.
always taught this is Jehovah's word. So I said, okay, I've never read the Bible cover to cover. So that's what I'm going to do. So I read Genesis 1 and then Genesis 2. And what popped out immediately, there's two creation stories here. Wait a minute. Something's wrong here. I couldn't
Hmm.
get past Genesis 1 and 2 because I recognized very clearly something is awry. I was like, whoa, yeah. And
You
that's
read
what
it with
started
a
my search
critical
with
thinking
looking
mind.
through the Samaritan. Say it again.
You read with a critical thinking mind.
Absolutely. And that is the key.
Hmm.
Critical thinking. If it doesn't make sense, look again.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's when I got turned on to the Sumerian text. And then that's
Yep.
when I start seeing the similarities, the very clear similarities of what's in those texts that
Hmm.
predate the Bible by 2,500 years to what's exactly in the Bible that's supposed to be the inspired word of God. So look again, y'all. Look again. Let's see if we have any other uh and Robert was born in like I was born into. Were you born
Yeah.
into, Lily?
Pretty darn
Yeah, I
close
was
to it.
born in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stephen says you're right, Lady Empath. Witnesses are part of military mind control
Yeah.
v- experiment Vera on. Oh yes, I remember Vera on YouTube. She did an investigation on them, and she
Hmm.
talked about her experience in Bethel, in New York. So did Marcus Bond. He was a Bethelite as well, and he once he got there, he saw of all the wife swapping and the homosexuality, drug and alcohol
Yeah.
abuse in Bethel. And
The
one of
hypocrisy.
the higher ups, young, yeah, one of the higher ups in Bethel said, if you really want to excel in Bethel, he says there's a whole nother side to this
Yep.
organization where they do rituals and all kinds of Freemason stuff. Yeah.
The hypocrisy. Yeah. The
So there's a lot.
Bethelites, they learned a lot. I remember, I left the religion in the year, well, actually in the mid 90s, but then was officially out in the year 2000, whenever my Jehovah Witness husband, he was a ministerial servant, but we had been um, just kind of sort of inactive, so to speak, because we had been learning in the 90s um, by listening to late night um, talk radio, the Art Bell Coast to Coast, where it was a radio show where
Yes.
they would talk about things like mind control and HARP and the Illuminati. And then there were people like David Wilcock on there talking about all this metaphysical, spiritual stuff,
David
and
Icke.
David Icke. Yeah, absolutely. And so we would listen to that stuff when we were coming from gatherings, because where we lived, you had to travel quite a bit. And so then that led to starting to learn different things. And what came out was my husband was one of the child sex abuse cases that, they were taught you don't talk about. And he had kept it hidden. And his family knew about it. But as an adult, he started to really have a problem with the concept of being in a protected religion, being protected, like Mormons think they're protected because they wear their garments. The Jehovah Witnesses think if you're in the religion, you're protected. And so
Right.
he had been groomed to be an elder and had turned it down a couple times because of, the dirt. And so he knew the stories and the various people who were molesting their kids or doing really sick things, and they were elders
Right.
or pioneers or whatever. So
And they use the two witness rule, and they use the two witness
yeah,
rule.
yeah. And so he had exhausted his ability to search for answers to that. And he talked about how, he'd talked to everybody and all they could say. I mean, every circuit overseer, and just all the way up the chain. And we understand you're struggling, brother. We don't have an answer. You just have to have faith. And that just didn't work at a certain point. And this was before the internet, where we learn what we know now. What we know now, just think of all the years we could have shaved off of our being willing to step outside the box. It was terrible. And so he was in fear of that. What if they are right? Because the year 2000 was coming, the Y2K world talked about this computer meltdown. So it's another date again, the end was
Uh-huh.
happening. And so he was afraid of what if they're right. And the programming that he and I grew up with. I'm 65, and so during our era of evolvement as a JW, being kids, we were taught it was better to be dead and die before Armageddon than to be out of the religion and die. And so he killed himself. So he thought that he could fall in that blanket of then he would be protected because he'd be asleep in death for the resurrection. So um, I at that point is when I said no more, no more. I can't do this anymore. So
Yeah. So sorry you had to go through that, Lily. And
so many
sorry as well
people.
for your, yeah, yeah. So many.
Some Somebody here, Mango 16 says, I would listen to Coast and Coast for 6 years, delivering newspapers, a big part of my awakening. Love that radio show.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Let me
Absolutely. Absolutely.
we would go to the bookstores and we would get all these books on like learning about the world too. We would learn about like political stuff and what was going on with these things called the Illuminati or these secret societies who really run the world. We started learning about all that stuff too, and that really
Hmm.
helped our evolvement. But I think that there's tremendous reasons not to be stuck in JW. I think um, if anybody is, that there is definitely a YouTuber or podcaster out there to help do the deprogramming process, because that's what it is you're stuck in the fear of the programs that you have had drilled into you.
Yeah. There's a site, I think it's called JW Facts.
Hmm.
Have you heard of that
Oh
one,
yeah,
Lily? JW
wasn't he
Facts.
the
It's a
elder?
lot of information. Say it
Is he
again.
the elder guy? There's this guy. Uh, I, I don't know if it's JW Facts, but sounds just like a young elder, like a 40-year-old elder, and he still has that voice inflection, the way he speaks. and he's speaking everything critically to
Yes.
Jehovah Witnesses on the hope that maybe some of them will like watch his channel. Um,
Yes.
yeah, it's really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Kim and Mikey were instrumental for me. That was one of the first channels that
Hmm.
considered apostates, and
Hmm.
that was the very first channel that I clicked on, and I remember seeing Mikey there, and
Yeah,
I'm like, the way he laughed and the way he was talking about Jehovah, I was like, oh,
Jehovah.
he's an apostate demon, and I'd click off of it because I was so afraid, but I couldn't stop listening to
Hmm.
them, and I'd go back and I'd listen to him again. It stirred something
Yeah,
within me. Yeah,
yeah.
they were instrumental in helping me wake up from the
And
Jehovah's Witness nightmare.
I think that Mike and Kim have been instrumental in helping thousands and thousands of people, get out. And then I think there's a lot of others that have taken up the torch in a more modern way to help,
Yes,
maybe learn in a different way. And I think people
the great
misunderstood.
apostate army.
Yes,
I
I, I,
call
th-
it
I
the
think
great apostate army.
I think sometimes people misunderstand Mike and Kim because they're old school. I'm old school,
Yeah.
so yeah, you're old school. We get them, okay. But I think
Uh-huh.
that there's a whole generation that um, they didn't they didn't get what Kim and Mikey or you or I went through.
Right.
They don't know before you had the internet and all of this stuff that people have as knowledge what it was like. And I think
Yeah,
that they
they're even
deserve.
saying that they never said, that they're saying that they never said the end was going to hit, that was going to come in 1975, and that's
Mm.
all we were drilled into our
Oh,
heads.
let me tell you, I would go to
1975 was
court.
going to be the end.
If anybody ever wanted to start a lawsuit on that, let me tell you, I would be one of the ones that signed up because
Me
that
too.
was my era. I was
Yep.
what life was like up to 75 and then after 75, and what we were told not to do because 1975 was coming. And it's like our lives were based solely on that because like when I hear that somebody like nowadays, like my brother, oh, that was my elder brother was telling me. He was saying what would be my niece in her 20s, I guess, which I've never met them, that she went to some type of journalism school. And I was like, what are you talking about? She went to college? And he's like, yeah.
Yep.
And I'm
Yep.
thinking, and I said, in what world is that acceptable, David? That's my brother. And he just talked about it like it was like, oh, like normal. And I said, excuse me, it was not normal in my day.
No.
We got reprimanded and taken in the back room if we even thought about taking like anything that had to do with the word college. It was like, forget
Yep.
it. You're not, and you were not supposed to get a career. You were not.
Yep.
And
I wanted to be a psychiatrist. I was totally into mental health,
mhm.
and I was told you can't do that. It's like turning your back on Jehovah's organization.
Oh yeah,
Your focus needs to be on the organization and preaching, the preaching work.
and you were viewed. You were like looked down on if you
Yes.
went to school, like you were weak. There was this one girl, her name was Arlene. Arlene was one of my best friends. She um I lived through the era of where schools were separate. You have white people and you have black people. And so I lived through the integration period where they mixed the schools. And so I was at, that they had us all mixed. But I grew up with I lived in the country. Everybody was all different colors. We didn't grow up prejudiced in those days because I grew up where there was so many different people. And so
Right.
when I was at school, I found out um, that The reason why the black people weren't picking on me is because the black Jehovah Witness that I had never met, she told them, leave that little white girl alone. And so she and I became best friends because the congregations weren't together either. And they eventually mixed the congregations. And so she became my best friend. And I remember when Arlene was graduating, she, at some point, she didn't become a pioneer, and she said that she was going to become a CPA. And I was like, how can you do that? And she says, well,
You're
I'm
gonna
not
get
going
me
to,
proved.
she says, I'm not going to tell anybody.
Oh
So she
wow.
did.
Wow. Look what
Yeah.
Robert says I was 15 in 1975. Skip school because we would not need lawyers in the new system.
No, right. Right. So it's like
Oh, that is too funny.
the stuff that
Wow.
we lived is so real, and I think the
Yeah.
people, like even the young ones now, sorry, I'm walking downstairs to get something, they had no idea some of the old time went through. They really don't.
I can't hear you now, Lily.
Hold on just a second. I'm grabbing the charger here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
get off pretty soon too because my fire has gone out and I'm freezing.
Uh,
I need to get my
oh
fire
my
going.
gosh.
But again, guys, regardless of whatever's going on around us, the same applies. Remember who and what you are. Don't give in to the fear. Don't give in to the chaos. The most that they can do us to us is mangle our meat suits. It's the worst that they can do to us. We are spirit beings and we have that spark of divinity within us of the grand creator, and you can't kill that.
No. And I think if you've learned what, so many people have learned, that there's something else out there, and we don't need to be in fear of the death process. We don't need to be in fear of that they want us to be in fear of, you know. So we're able to find our way. There's so many people that are, it's like you realize you're not alone, you know. Maybe another time we can talk about ascension symptoms that people,
Yes, definitely.
yeah,
Definitely. And actually we need to do that, Lily. Let's set up a time. We've been talking about doing that forever, about
yeah.
setting up a weekly podcast. So we're gonna set that up, guys. And
If the people, I don't know how big your audience is, and there's maybe we could, I don't know if they're able to write and talk about subjects that they'd like to talk about or different things that they like to talk about. But
that would be awesome. Leave it in the comments, guys, of just different ideas of topics that you'd like us to discuss. And we'll do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, it's like it's being able to communicate with other people is a good thing, and there's a couple of YouTubers I know that they do like the StreamYard, and they'll have like 3 or 4 people on the StreamYard where people can interact. It's like, unless you're on the StreamYard like I am right now, you don't realize how the process works to be able to see what the audience, or to see what you guys are writing. Because I've always been in the audience, and I would like to interact with people, like you writing questions. And so um, I like that you can do like the live like this and interact. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And how do we always end it, Lily? Stay at that high love vibration. Come on, you do it with me. Everybody do it. Keep your
Okay.
vibrations high. All right. Thank you, guys. And we'll talk again soon. Okay.
All right. Bye, dear.
Bye
Take
bye.
care. Love
Bye,
you.
everyone.